So if we want to start then, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Marianne Butler. I am a Green Party County Councillor in County Louth. I'm based in Dundalk. I was first elected to Dundalk Town Council in 2009. And I suppose prior to that, I worked in banks and I studied business studies in Trinity, and I graduated in 2006. And I am a mammy to two little boys, and my claim to fame is, yes, I married a former head boy of Drogheda Primary School.
How are your, this is off topic, but how are your sons finding like online school and everything?
So thankfully, my youngest child is 4,
Mm-hmm.
and my older boy is 7. So they're junior infants and first class. So thankfully, they were the first wave of
Oh,
kids.
they're back at school, yeah.
Yeah, and well settled back in. It was definitely, there was some aspects, I think, of lockdown this year were harder and some aspects were easier. I think the online teaching and learning was a lot better this year. But I suppose the fact that I ended up with so many meetings that literally just stopped last year, whereas they continued on Microsoft Teams and Zoom. So it was a bit a lot of juggling, but I think it was good. And just, I suppose we kind of probably digress. They're playing a lot of Minecraft, which apparently is, I'm not convinced, but both of them are quite into it at this stage. So apparently it is good for creativity and coding and a whole host of other things and problem solving.
Yeah, I've actually never played Minecraft, I'll be honest.
I don't think I've barely played a computer game. I think there was a bit of a Pokemon phase in our house, and I kind of got into that a wee bit, but other than that, no.
Okay, so on the topic of the Green Party then, can you tell us like first of all, how did you get into the Green Party and what like sparked your interest in it? And yeah, what made you want to join that party in particular?
Sure. So I suppose I have to kind of rewind back to where we were in the world at that stage. Barack Obama had been elected in 2008. And I suppose I was quite cynical and skeptical about politics at that point in time. And I think that was kind of a change for me, that, change was actually possible. There was definitely a lot of hope around that period in time of 2008. That, it was possible to change things. And it's hard to rewind back to that point in time, but I suppose that stayed with me. I suppose, fast forward to about April 2009, and the local elections were happening in 2009. And I decided, yep, I'm going to put my name forward. Now, saying that, I won't lie, it might have been a little bit easier for me. My sister is married to Mark Deary, and he had been elected to Dundalk Town Council for the party back in 2004. So I suppose the fact that I could pick up the phone to Mark and say, what do you think of me running? And he says, yeah, definitely. It's probably a plus. Now, I had to go through the whole procedure of the convention with the local Green Party group. And thankfully I was successful. I suppose as a first timer in 2009, I had no real, I suppose I didn't dare to dream that I would actually get elected, but I thought, well, look, I'm going to try this, and I was elected to the town council. And I suppose subsequent to that, about a year later, Mark was appointed to the Seanad, and I was co-opted into his county council seat then in the 15th of March 2010. So I'm actually 11 years.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
Like county council. So so, but I suppose there's probably something always there in me. My father had a subscription to Time magazine. So like as a child in the late 80s, I remember reading about global warming back then in Time magazine. It probably wasn't talked about very much in Irish media, but I remember reading about it then in Time magazine and going, oh my God, this is going to happen, so it's probably something that was always in the back of my mind. But that's probably
Yeah.
a lot of the reasons why I decided to put my name in the hat in 2009.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I feel like most people only hear about environmental issues like when they're in school or even secondary school. So it's interesting that you knew about it even way before that.
Yeah, I think I know. I remember because I ended up writing a story, an essay about it, and I
Hmm.
was in 5th class at the time, and I think my teacher was the principal of the school at the time, and she happened to be a nun, and I think she thought I was nuts. But yeah, so that's probably always been in my mind from a young age as well.
Yeah. And on that topic, what do you think, not just in our locality, but like even in Ireland, what is the most important or like pressing environmental issue, in your opinion?
Oh God, yeah. There's so many different
There's a few.
there's so many different levels to that. Like at a very high level, it's the amount of carbon that we are,
Hmm.
each and every one of us is contributing to the planet, and how we move away from doing that. And there's a whole host of ways we do that. I think if you drill down from that, I'm thinking of even basic things like our air quality, our water quality, you know, and you know, following on from that, like our well-being, you know, our mental health, all those other aspects. But I suppose at a very high level, it's the amount of carbon that each and every one of us is contributing to the planet every day, and how, you know, on a national level, a local level, we can work to really reduce that.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of different ways to reduce it. Like, I suppose as a local politician, one of the things we would be responsible for is a development plan. So at a very high level, we decide which parts of a town or an area are suitable for housing, and how they connect up. You know, so are we creating this very car-based society, or are we creating a really well-connected space that people can walk, that people can cycle, get to their shops, get to their schools, get to the
Yeah.
places in a safe way, avoiding, I suppose, carbon producing vehicles.
Hmm. And what do you think, like on a local level, but also like individuals, what can we do to solve that? So, as in like reducing our carbon emissions, like what can we do in our day-to-day lives?
Oh, yeah. There's a huge amount we can do, and there's a huge amount that we need to be supported in doing. They're the two kind of aspects of this. And I suppose just sometimes we just need to sit back and take a look around at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis and say, right, how can we change this? And like, I know it's two very small examples, but I found myself going to a lot of meetings. So for instance, I was on the governing body of DKIT for a while.
Hmm.
And every time we went to a meeting, we got a plastic bottle of water. And, you know, I'm like, so I think one of the first things I did was like, okay, how about a jug of tap water
Yeah.
and some glasses, you know? And yes, you know, and funny, the same thing was happening in the county council. It wasn't quite as bad. We were getting the jug of water, but we were getting the plastic cups.
Yeah.
Look, how about a couple of glasses here? You know, so thankfully we so it's that kind of thing, like saying, what can I change easily? And that to me is kind of low-hanging fruit. But then the other aspect is, how do I get about my day-to-day life? You know,
Hmm.
so is it possible for me to safely walk or cycle or take public transport to school, or, you know, for different aspects of my life, as opposed to taking a car journey? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Looking at the food we eat and where it's come from, and even on a very small scale, would it be possible for me to produce some of my own food? And I suppose it's easier for some people. Some people, you could always grow a couple of herbs, or, you know,
Yeah.
small things like that. But I suppose even that, when you go to the supermarket, you know, take a look at where your food's coming from and how did it get to Ireland, you know? So I think yesterday I'm in Dunn's and I'm looking at blueberries from Argentina or Chile going, oh, here, you know.
Yeah.
They've come a very, very long way, and a lot of them are flown into the country. So I'd love to see us kind of move into more seasonal fruit and veg that are produced locally. And there's a lot produced in County Louth, thankfully. But it's as consumers that we make those decisions as well. And then, yeah, there's other things that we need to be looking at, like fast fashion.
Yeah.
How, you know, like I'd always say things like, you know, you can go in and you can buy an item of clothing and it can be particularly cheap and you might wear it for 1 week and suddenly there's a hole in it, and it's not worth repairing. And, you know, but I suppose the environmental impact of that piece of clothing, you know, having probably, like we've seen the programs, having probably damaged the environment of India, Bangladesh, you know, some of the countries where some of these clothes are produced. You know, I saw an awful documentary, I think Stacey Dooley, and you know, there was like rivers of basically dye from jeans and the amount of water needed to produce jeans. So I'd love to see us buying less clothes and repairing clothes and, you know, to move away from fast fashion. And look at vintage clothes, secondhand clothes, you know, upcycling things as well. And that's the same with a lot of things in our life as well, that they are just disposable. You know, if our phone, we break the screen on our phone, we say, oh, sure, it's not worth repairing the screen. We'll just go get a new phone. We're due an upgrade anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd love to see us getting to that idea of repairing and recycling. And I know at an EU level, one of the things that is out there is the right to repair, you know, for a whole host of things.
Yeah, definitely.
They're just some very some things, you know, that easy things. And again, it's just looking at your day-to-day life. The other thing, I suppose, as well, you know, for somebody like me with a house, you know, that you think about how it's been heated and how to make it more efficient heating wise, that it is producing less carbon. It is taking less carbon to heat my house and cook my meals and put the washing machine on and all those things. So I'm actually on a roll today. I have one of the things, so like initially when we bought the house before my oldest child was born, we managed to get it up to a C2 BER rating, which is grand. The house was built in 1950, but a couple of years back we put on 14 solar panels and we have 2 batteries.
And 14, wow.
14, yeah. So like a day like today, I'm just looking at my app. I was obsessed with it when I got it first of all, but like coming into this time of year, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So joking, there. I know one of the things I'm digressing now. Sorry, I know one of the things the government is doing at the minute. I think a couple of years back, you used to get a feed-in tariff if you produced excess electricity, and it was kind of done away with. But I know it's one of the things that they're hoping to reintroduce. So yeah, a day like today, I could be making serious money. Well, probably not. So at the minute, I am producing 3.1 kilowatts. Now, I have the washing machine on, so I am, and it's probably heating some water as well, so I'm actually consuming 2.1 kilowatts, but charging the battery with the rest. So yeah.
It's handy that you can actually see what you're using. That's handy.
Yeah, it really is, you know, because like sometimes you will make decisions around, you know, sure, look, sun's shining, I'll put the washing machine on. You know, which is great. Look, once everything's there, it's basically free, you know. So it is definitely a good idea, and I hope there are more supports out there to encourage people when they are making those decisions to, you know, move towards that. So I'm now a B2, you know, so there's still a fairly efficient gas boiler there as well during the winter months, but it definitely helps improve the amount of carbon this house is using. You know? So it's a good idea.
Yeah, even on our own house, it's quite an old house, so we got a grant for solar panels. We don't have 14 now; we have 6, but still, it's good. But that's one of the. Sorry if I interrupted you there. That's one of the things that Dorothy and I are really interested in, about like how on an individual level what we can do, but we also like really need the support. So say in our local area, like it would be quite dangerous to cycle. So
Yeah,
you probably already know, but they're building a green walk or a greenway
yeah.
up onto
It's kind of gone all along the
Aldbridge,
Boyne.
yeah, all the way up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then we have like boardwalks on the beach and like all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And on that note then about like how the government can support us, what are some of your favorite or like the most beneficial projects or legislation that you or the Green Party have passed?
Oh dear, that we've actually passed.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that's kind of on the go at the minute, it hasn't been brought over the line, is the climate action bill. And there's going to be a whole host of things contained in that. But yeah, it's been so, I suppose the Greens have been in government since last summer. And I suppose a lot of what's happened since then is COVID related, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I do hope there is an opportunity just to really introduce a lot of changes. And I do think that will come, and it'll come out of the climate bill. There's a lot in the pipeline at the minute. So for instance, there's the consultation at the minute around the feed-in. Well, it's not directly feed-in tariffs, but it's about micro generators. So people in their houses or their farms or their businesses, producing their own electricity via solar or wind, small level wind turbines, or being able to sell the excess into the national grid. So I know that consultation is happening at the minute. There's a consultation happening at the minute around banning smoky coal nationally, which
Oh really? Oh, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
As in like the
So
coal that you put in your fireplace.
yeah, no,
Oh yeah.
it's literally just the kind of smoky coal. So I know major towns like Dundalk and Drogheda have had a smoky coal ban for a very long time. So look, that will be huge. Like if you literally ban it nationally, because I think it's definitely benefited the likes of Dublin, Drogheda, Dundalk, but you can see sometimes areas like Longford have really, really poor air quality, and it's because of what people are burning in their fires. But I suppose hand in hand with that, we have to be supporting people to come up with other ways of heating their homes, especially older homes. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Like I suppose there's definitely been a couple of schemes introduced about active travel. There was a school scheme announced yesterday about safe routes to school. I think 15 million fund for that. And I know in Dundalk, we've applied for an active travel fund as well to kind of expand the cycle lane network. I'm sure there's areas of Drogheda that's happening in as well, but I kind of focus more on Dundalk, especially with COVID, because I rarely get beyond it nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a couple of things, definitely. I'd love to see other things happening, some real blue sky stuff that's kind of happened in other countries. I'd love to see us introducing.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Like, what do you want to see? What legislation or what changes do you want to see?
Okay, well, if I was Taoiseach, I think there's some really interesting things that could happen. So in Germany, one of the things they did was they made public transport free in Berlin.
Oh, really? Completely free?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I know one of the things that was in our manifesto, and I don't know if it was for the locals or last year, I'm not sure if it got into the programme for government, was about making public transport free for young people. So like to get to college, to get to school, so straight away, I think people would think twice, well, do I actually need a car? If I could get around in public transport, and it costs me nothing. I'd love to see that happening. What other initiatives? Yeah, they're probably the main ones. Yeah, more supports for people as well, in making the switch to how they're heating their homes and how their houses are insulated, and encouraging people to do that. And there's a number of ways of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. And I like the public transport one will be handy.
Yeah,
Um,
it really would. Like it's, I'm thinking of so many people, especially in County Louth, who will commute. Like I know for the first 2 years I was in Trinity, I got the train there every
yeah,
day. And I think a lot of people in County Louth, if they're going to DCU or UCD, any of the Dublin colleges, or coming up to DKIT in Dundalk, chances are they're going by bus
yeah,
or train. So I think straight away that would be amazing. And there's so much public, how to put it, there's so much, the government's already putting a lot of money into public transport
mhm,
and supporting, let's say, older people have free travel and certain other groups of people have free travel. So I don't think it would be a huge step change to expand this.
yeah. Mhm. And so do you think the government, like now and in the past, has done enough for environmental issues, or do you think it's kind of been like pushed to the side?
Definitely been pushed to the side. um, I have a lot of hope, especially since the Green Party are in coalition.
Yeah,
I'm realistic that we won't get everything that we want, but I think what is in the programme for government, there's some really excellent stuff there and really ambitious stuff. Like what we're talking about is retrofitting 500,000 houses, and even the really high level stuff about moving away from electricity nationally being produced from kind of coal and peat and eventually oil and gas. We move away from those dirty fossil energies, to be quite
mhm.
honest. And yeah, retrofitting 500,000 houses is huge.
It's really ambitious, yeah.
But yeah, to be honest, there's been a lost decade um, from about from the last financial crash in whatever around, I think we really started feeling the effects of it around 2010, 2011. There has been a lost decade where
Mhm.
progress has definitely stalled, and we can see that from the emissions that Ireland is responsible for. I haven't even touched on agriculture now, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and what was I going to say? Yeah, then I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your career then,
Sure.
because, transition year is all about careers and it has like a lot of focus about our futures and what we want to do. So we'd love to hear like what are the pros and cons of politics? And I know the Green Party is more focused about the environment, but in politics in general, what do you think the pros and the cons are?
Um, Firstly, I suppose one of the cons. Sometimes, I think sometimes other careers would definitely pay better,
Yeah.
and that's not like you can Google and see what a county councillor is paid. I think figure is about 17, 18,000 per year, and there's other amounts added to that depending on what you do, but that's the basic for a county councillor is 17, 18,000 a year. So it's not a lot. Most people combine it with another job as well, but I suppose that can make their lives very, very busy. Um, I suppose another downside to politics as well, especially I suppose for a woman or people with young families, is there is no kind of maternity parental leave. So yeah, you can find yourself with very young kids and being expected to go back to meetings or be there for key votes or different things. I think my first child was born in 2013 and I picked a good time to have him because it was July and there's generally not many meetings in August. But I found myself back at a meeting 2 or 3 weeks later. And the
Oh,
same
wow.
thing happened like with my next child. So it's
Yeah.
tough,
Hmm.
getting used to that. It would be nice to have a bit of a break at that time, just to focus on a very young baby and everything else. Um, yeah, the other con, I'm giving you all the cons first.
It's okay.
One thing that I probably got better at over the years, but I suppose probably in the early days, I probably took a lot of criticism very personally. You know, and I probably have a thicker skin at this stage. But yeah, sometimes, you know, you can say, well, I think this is a great idea. And, you know, you can have somebody else saying, oh, I think you're stupid, and that's daft. And you're like, oh my God, they think I'm stupid. So I don't think that's ever actually what happened, but, you know, along those lines, you know, where, you know, you're trying to get support for a project or an idea, and you're criticized, or the project or idea is criticized. Yeah, it's easy to think. I definitely took it personally in the early days, probably less so now. The pros are, it's just your best days are just amazing.
Yeah.
You know, your best days when you can turn around and say, I made a difference in my community, I made a difference for the county, I made a difference for the country, you know, and sometimes it can be as simple as I made a difference for somebody's life, you know, where my intervention either made their life much better or stopped making their life really bad, you know, which can happen sometimes. So I suppose away from the environmental field of things, you know, as a county councillor, you're dealing with the public, and they come to you with a wide variety of problems, varied and complex sometimes. But yeah, when you can turn around and say that you made a real impact in somebody's life, and you know, it can be little things like,
yeah, that's quite special as a career. And then I want to ask you, as a woman in politics, have you faced any challenges that, say, a man in politics wouldn't? Have you faced any sexism in your career, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah,
I know it's a difficult question.
No, it's been weird. I suppose probably in the early days, if I go back to 2009, the number of times I found myself being the only woman in the room, and that was weird at times. But
yeah,
you know, at the same time, it's like, it didn't faze me, you know, at the time. But I remember being in a very heated debate, and it was around the redevelopment of the Market Square in Dundalk. And there was kind of a cohort there that were saying, oh, sure, it's grand, just dicky it up, you know, whereas we wanted to really do something different with it, make it a really beautiful space that it is today. But I ended up taking to my feet at one stage, and I came out with a point. But one of the older councillors said, sit down, and did that with his hand. And
that's so condescending.
I just lost my head. And I said, how dare him tell me to sit down? And I ended up leaving the room, but I was glad I left the room. And I think you definitely, you have to stand up for yourself, you know. And it wasn't any worse than that, if you know what I mean. And the particular gentleman I'd known him for quite long, so he'd been used to me as a child, if you know what I mean. And I probably never grew up in his head, even though I was a councillor and an equal to him, you know. So that probably was part of the problem there. But yeah, I suppose there was another case, and it was just kind of sometimes going, oh, I am the only woman in the room. So I think even when I went to town council meetings, there was always a number of town council staff. The town engineer was a woman. So I was never the only woman in the room. But in one case, we were giving a civic reception to the local army battalion, and the staff had left the room at that stage. So it was literally just the council and the army. And I think the lieutenant in the army, or whatever his title was, kind of said, you know, lady and gentleman. And I was like, oh, it's just me. And even then, I think it would have probably been more appropriate to have said councillors, you know, because we were all councillors, you know. I don't think there's been anything. Yeah, you get odd bits and pieces. Like sometimes, I remember when I was canvassing, for some strange reason, you know, I was asked twice why I never took my husband's name.
Oh no. That's so irrelevant.
And I suppose, and that was a decision I made even before politics, you know. starting out in a career, I'm not taking your name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was kind of asked that a couple of times. Because people were trying to figure out who I was and who I was married to, and knowing that I'm married, but how could I still be a butler? Well, anyway.
Oh God, yeah, it doesn't
So,
affect your political skills.
no. So yeah, there's just funny little things like that. I can't say there's been anything more serious than that, but yeah, sometimes you're conscious of it, but yeah, they were probably the couple of times where it really stood out to me.
Like small things,
I kind of have to just be comfortable that there's times I was the only woman in the room, and
so as in would you have any tips then? Because I know if that happened to me, I just get annoyed every single time. But like you said, you just grew a thick skin. So is that one of the ways that you just got over it? Or has there been any times where you've had to call someone out or discuss it, or do you just brush it off?
you have to challenge it, so like if I hadn't challenged
Yeah.
and then I think, he realized, look, he was out of line then, and it's something he shouldn't have done. And I think he did apologize to me afterwards. You can argue the toss, but you don't be that dismissive of somebody, like, sit down, we're not listening to you. You do have to challenge it when you see it. I suppose people asking you about not taking your husband's name, I don't know how you challenge that. You just say, no, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. You do, just sometimes you have to fight your own corner, and that's it. But look, it's been, I can't say there's been anything really, really, really bad,
that's a good thing.
And I think in this day and age, there shouldn't be anything really, really bad.
Yeah, definitely.
No.
Okay, well, that's good then. And I know you said earlier that you've been in this for 11 years, so your career has been quite long. And do you think that sexism in politics has gotten better, or has it gotten worse? Are you seeing more or less of it?
No, look, it's definitely getting better. I suppose I've been elected to the town council since 2009, so county council for the 11 years. But so one of the things, like when I joined the county council, there was 26 people in total on the council, and I know I wrote a piece about this, the numbers. So prior to me joining, 2 out of 26 were women. And when I joined, then I brought the numbers to 3 out of 26. So you fast forward now, where we're a 29 seat council, and I think 13 are women now. So it's definitely changed, which is really good. And I think, like, one of the things that I can say I'm a little green win for was Mary White, who was a Green Party junior minister back in 2009, 2010. One of the things she brought in was gender quotas. Now, they're only being brought in for general elections. I think they are moving towards local elections as well. But straight away, it meant that political parties in particular had to start seeking out female talent and investing in female talent. Otherwise, they would be penalised financially for not doing that. So I think that has helped. And also, there's a lot of different groups involved in it now. So there's a 50-50 group, and there's a Women for Election group, and they're kind of given those practical training and supports to councils, or to women who want to put their name forward to run for council, or support other women by being campaign managers or working on their campaigns.
Yeah, that's really positive. Yeah. And hang on, Dorothy wrote this question. I think it's a very good question. In one statement, what message do you have to the coming generation? Or to simplify, do you have any advice for young people?
Young people, oh God. It's just suppose there's a famous Eleanor Roosevelt line that I used recently, and it's around the idea of challenging yourself. And it's really simple, and I think it speaks probably to women more than it does to men, but it's, you must do the thing you think you cannot do. And it's very simple, but very powerful at the same time. So it's about challenging yourself. And if you say, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do this, or, you know, I couldn't possibly try that, you know, so it's about challenging yourself. So I think if I had any message to give to the next generation, it is about that idea of not thinking that things are impossible, and also challenging themselves and challenging others, you know,
Yeah.
and especially decision makers in a lot of respects. Because I think if we are going to effectively deal with the climate crisis, we need to be, in a lot of respects, turning things on its head, you know, and moving away from, and it's very scary. It's very scary for a certain generation of people, older people,
Yeah.
but moving away from so many of the structures and systems that are currently in place,
Yeah,
you know,
that's great
that are
advice.
damaging the environment. So yeah, if I had any line, I would say, do the thing you think you cannot do, you know, and really challenge yourself.
That's great advice. Yeah. Well, our time is nearly up, but you ended on a really positive note. Do you have anything else to say? Any closing points? Any questions to ask? Or
No, not really. It's part of an eco UNESCO project, is it?
yeah, basically, it's I probably should have explained the project at the
No.
start. It's an action project, so we have to come up with an idea and then make an action. So we chose, our school has really good grounds. I'm sure you know Drogheda Grammar. So we're doing like a biodiversity plan. So we'll be planting pollinators, we're making a compost bin, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then we also created like a peer education program. So that teachers and like also students can use to educate maybe the next TY. So even when we're gone, like the project can still be used. So that's what we're doing. But before we decided on that, we wanted to do like some stuff in the local area. So that's why we're interviewing the local politicians.
Brilliant. I stayed in Drogheda Grammar School for 2 weeks, a very,
Oh,
very long
really?
time ago.
In the boarding section?
Yeah. So there was an Irish language college there one summer.
Yeah.
So is the swimming pool still there?
It's there, like it's empty. It's drained, and it hasn't been used. It hasn't been used in, I think, like 7 years. Like,
Yeah, I can
yeah.
understand why.
Yeah, but because I think it was really hard to maintain. But I've seen the pictures; it looked really nice at the time.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, I think it needed a little more maintenance at the time. Yeah, look, I think, yeah, that's one of the really simple things we can do is around biodiversity. And I know we've got a couple of projects on the go here in Dundalk as well. Yeah, and look, best of luck. It'd be lovely to pop down when it's safe to do
I'd
so,
love
and
that.
take a look at everything that's happening in the grammar school. But look, best of luck with your studies, and if there's anything I can do, let me know.
Thank you so much. We will, and we'd love to see you down at the grammar.
And tell Dorothy I'm sorry we didn't get to meet.
I'll tell her. Don't worry. Thank you so much, though, for your time, and you gave me great answers. So thank you.
Not at all. It was lovely to meet you, Alba, and look, best of luck with your studies.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye now.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.